The night air was thick with the scent of champagne and polished oak, the soft murmur of Manhattan's elite buzzing through the grand halls of the Van Buren Gallery. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen constellations, casting fractured light over sleek marble floors. Every inch of the space was curated to perfection, but tonight the perfection itself was about to be tested. Isabella Moreau, the rising socialite who had been whispered about in every Manhattan hotspot for the past 6 months, floated through the crowd with the ease of a queen among her loyal court. She wore a silvery gown that caught the light at every turn, her hair perfectly arranged, lips curved in a practiced smile, and eyes scanning the room like a hawk. This was her night. Her curated image of charm, allure, and untouchable influence would reign supreme. She had spent months arranging the guest list, securing a prominent artist for the evening, and making sure every photograph would capture her at the peak of grace and sophistication. Tonight, everyone would see Isabella Moreau, the embodiment of elegance and insider power. But the air shifted before she could even reach the gallery's centerpiece, a monumental abstract painting that had already drawn a small crowd. From across the room, he appeared, a quiet figure whose presence seemed almost impossible to ignore. Tall, composed, with an aura that didn't shout but demanded attention. He was the last person Isabella expected. Nathaniel Reed. Her past, both a cherished memory and a source of secret insecurity, had quietly entered the room, brought in not by chance but by a longtime friend who knew exactly how to unravel her. Nathaniel had never been part of her carefully curated circles, never been subjected to her manipulations or her brand of social charm. Yet there he was, unassuming yet striking, stepping through the crowd with a calmness that contrasted sharply with Isabella's taut energy. The subtle tension between them was almost visible, a current of history that pulled at the edges of the evening like a storm gathering behind calm skies. Isabella's smile faltered, just slightly, and in that imperfection lay a universe of vulnerability. She had spent years building her image as untouchable, flawless, the one everyone wanted to know, yet Nathaniel's presence reminded her that beyond the glittering mask, she was human, fallible, and deeply exposed. As the crowd began to notice, whispers followed, soft at first, then louder, "Isn't that?" "I thought he was in Europe." Eyes that had been fixed on her shimmered with doubt, curiosity, and intrigue. Nathaniel did not approach her immediately. He moved with purpose, observing the gallery, speaking in low tones to those who had never expected his insight. People started to shift, magnetized by his quiet confidence, his genuine laughter, his absence of pretension. The more they looked at him, the more Isabella felt her control slipping, the crown of her influence wobbling just enough to be dangerous. She tried to reclaim the narrative, gliding through groups of admirers, dropping names, laughing at jokes she barely heard, raising her glass with a practiced tilt. But every glance that landed on Nathaniel was a reminder that the world she had built on charm and image could crumble in the space of a single presence. He spoke to the gallery owner about the nuances of light and color with such precision that even the most aloof critics leaned in, nodding in agreement, while she felt a cold burn of envy and fear. Moments later, someone from the crowd asked, almost in awe, "Isn't it extraordinary how he sees the painting? It's like he's part of it." The comment, innocent in tone, was catastrophic in effect. Every whispered compliment she had relied upon seemed suddenly hollow. The meticulously prepared applause she had envisioned felt fragile and rehearsed compared to the natural admiration Nathaniel drew effortlessly. Isabella's friend, who had orchestrated this subtle intervention, observed from a distance, a faint smirk crossing her lips. She had known all along that true influence did not come from curated perfection but from authenticity, presence, and undeniable gravitas. Nathaniel embodied all of it, and as the night unfolded, the balance of power shifted quietly, imperceptibly, until Isabella felt it in the pit of her stomach like a slow-gnawing certainty. She was losing her kingdom. In an attempt to regain control, Isabella approached Nathaniel, her voice perfectly poised, charm dialed to the maximum. "Nathaniel, it's been a long time. Unexpected to see you here." Her words were measured, yet beneath them, a tremor betrayed her anxiety. He looked at her, and for a heartbeat, she expected tension, discomfort, or recognition of her dominance. But he smiled, genuine, unhurried, disarming, and simply replied, "I heard this gallery opening was worth attending." No praise, no attempt to coddle her ego, just simple truth. The room seemed to pause. Even the background music dimmed in her ears as every eye subtly followed their exchange. The unassuming remark pierced her defenses, laying bare the fragility of the persona she had so carefully curated. Guests began to gravitate toward him. Conversation, laughter, and subtle nods of approval built around Nathaniel's presence. Her attempts to interject, to redirect, to dazzle, felt increasingly hollow. Every word she spoke, every laugh she forced, was a reminder that her perfection was performative, a thin veneer that could crack under genuine charisma. By the time the night reached its peak, the social hierarchy Isabella had so meticulously curated had quietly rearranged itself. She realized with a slow, bitter clarity that the evening had never been about her alone. It had been about presence, authenticity, and the undeniable pull of history, connection, and substance over surface. The gallery hummed with admiration, but the crowd's allegiance had shifted. Isabella's image, once untouchable, now seemed fragile and performative, while Nathaniel's calm, confident presence had become the anchor of the evening, leaving her floating in the eddies of her own insecurities. The final moment arrived when the gallery owner raised a toast, celebrating both the exhibition and the energy of the night. Glasses shimmered, eyes glinted, and Nathaniel's quiet smile seemed to radiate approval and truth. Isabella raised her own glass, but it felt hollow. She realized that the power she had clung to, the admiration she had relied upon, was not hers to command. It was a currency earned, not borrowed. The crowd had chosen, and silently, decisively, the room had voted with its attention, its awe, its respect. Isabella left the gallery that night with the echo of whispers trailing behind her. Not scandalous whispers, not the malicious kind she had learned to expect, but the quiet recognition that power and influence are fragile, that authenticity outweighs performance, and that even the most dazzling socialite can be humbled by a presence that is simple, real, and unassumingly magnetic. Nathaniel stayed, his quiet authority unchanged, a reminder that the world is often captivated not by who shouts the loudest or shines the brightest, but by who simply exists with undeniable truth. And as Isabella walked into the cold Manhattan night, the realization sank deep. Tonight, she had lost more than just attention. She had glimpsed the limits of her own carefully constructed reality. In its place, a lesson harsher than any criticism lingered. Charm can open doors, but authenticity leaves them open forever.